Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Mark Fisher, again, your host of Perspective, the podcast. Today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about insurance. Don't let the title fool you. We're just going to mention GoFundMe, but we're going to look into some issues and think back through some things, and we're going to get it straight about how insurance works, what we must need to know about it, and how to make things go forward. As I said, GoFundMe is not insurance, and we know that. As you know, funeral homes normally don't take GoFundMe as a primary source. Let's talk a little bit about how we got into this situation that we're in right now. But before I do that again, I want to say hello. Thank you for the privilege of your time, of anyone tuning in out here to see what we're talking about. And we're going to look back a little bit into history. Going into 2000, we've had some traumatic things happen. If you remember 2008, we had a recession. And as the economist called it a recession, some communities actually suffered a depression. It was just as bad as it was in the 40s. Due to that happening, we know that surviving every day is an important thing. We have to eat, we have to keep the lights on, we have to keep the children clothed. We have basic necessities that we have to live through. So, because of that, one thing that we tend to, I don't want to say neglect, one thing we tend to get rid of first is our life insurance. We always assume we're not going to die today, we're not going to die tomorrow. And we know we have to eat today. Children have to eat 3-4 times a day. We have to keep the lights on, we have to keep gas in the car. So during that time frame, quite a few people had policies lapse. And it is what it is. It happens. Life happens. We all go through tragedies. Then less than 10 years after that, we suffered a pandemic. Would anyone ever think the world would close? There would be no public school? Well, we survived it. And again, with the hardships of not being able to work, still having to pay our bills and survive, a lot of times the insurance went neglected. And we understand that. But now, as we're trying to get back on track, we're getting ready for presidential elections, and we all should be concerned about that. We have to plan for our future. And part of planning for our future is knowing that one day we're going to pass. Knowing that we need to think about it. So we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about some options. Now, disclaimer, I am not a licensed insurance agent. I am licensed to sell pre-need insurance, but not whole life, term life, universal life. But we can get you in touch with the right people in order to get you straight. Just want to get that out there. Now, another thing about not being prepared, it causes additional stress. When someone is passed, you're already grieving. And now when you're afraid of how the finances are going to come, what can we do, what can we not do? It's additional stress. We know that. So, as we talk through today, just a short conversation, 15-20 minutes, don't want much of your time. There's some options, there's some things we can think about, and we're here to help you. You can feel free to call me, 757-245-3302, and we can help talk you through certain options. You know me, I'm going to start off with a video, and we're going to talk about some different things in funeral service. Tell me what you think about that. butterfly releases. Yes, we've done them here before. Butterfly releases can be seasonal. Normally, butterflies don't fly when the temperature is below 65 degrees, I think it is. So it's a late spring, summertime, early fall release. It can be different because, as you see, the butterfly just won't take off. Most of the time, the butterfly has to warm up. The blood has to flow to the wings, then he starts to take off. But it's a very different type of release and something we can get for you. But be aware, it is weather cognizant. So I would not suggest we trying that in December. I don't think they'll fly. Yes, posing. We've shown posing of remains before, and this is down in the Caribbean, and the body's actually standing to be viewed. What do you think of that? Would you like your loved one to be posed like that? But remember what I've said, the funeral home must know before we do the embalming. Please don't just surprise us with something like that. Here's one last. Things happen. Things happen. Now, can you imagine having a horse-drawn carriage, procession going to the cemetery, and the horse just passed out? They're saying he died. I don't have evidence that this horse did pass away, but something unexpected had happened in the middle of the ceremony. And as funeral directors, now we must adjust because the service must continue to go on. But things do happen. Now, can you imagine the delay in getting the horse removed from the highway? Traffic may be tied up for quite a while through this incident. Just wanted you to see some of the things that we go through, some of the things that happen in funeral service, not even here locally, but across the globe. I want to bring funeral service to you in a way that you may not have ever thought about it. As we go into this episode about GoFundMe, speaking of insurance, if there's any insurance agent out here that would like to come on as a guest of an episode so that you can explain this even better than I would love to have you. So we're going to start off what I say, GoFundMe is not insurance, and it definitely isn't. First, again, I want to thank you for being here with me today. If you're looking at it in the rebroadcast, I say thank you there as well. Leave a comment. I will respond. We really want to grow a community of people that are learning funeral service and being knowledgeable of what's going on. Our conversation today, how funeral homes expect payment, because we know it's a service, it's a business, and nothing is free in America. No, well, some countries, the federal government will provide burial services, but in America, we don't have such that I know of. If I'm wrong, someone please tell me. Of course, we always will accept cash, personal check, cashier's check. Most of us do take credit cards. And any insurance policy that is non-contestable. We're going to get more into that, what contestable means and things like that as we go on. But you need to know about the policy and what state it's in before you present it to the funeral home, because we are going to check it to make sure it is what you think it is. Before we start this learning process today, let's try to answer one question. Why don't funeral homes generally have payment plans? Number one, we are not a licensed lending institution. That's the first reason. We're not a bank. Number two, we cannot charge interest fees on the unpaid balance legally because we're not a bank. We do not have the privilege of doing that. And we normally do not do credit checks on the contract signer. Now think about something. When you go to purchase your car, your home, you go to your bank for a small business loan. There are certain guidelines that they go by to want to check to make sure that you're credit worthy. Normally they check a credit score. They want to know employment, how long have you been there. Once you've satisfied those issues, then they make a decision on how much credit they will allow and if they will allow credit. Funeral homes tend to not work like that. Number one, we do not want to get into your private business like that. An option could be go to your lending institution. Maybe they have something to help you. But let's go on a little bit more into how we can help you. Know that every funeral home is going to have a payment policy. And they're going to mandate a day that they must have payment before they can guarantee the funeral. It tends to be a policy that we all go by. It tends to be written, listed somewhere in our facilities, and we will also explain that to you at the time of making arrangements before we set a permanent date for the funeral. So most of us will have a policy of some sort. Please be aware of that. Now let's go to the most common forms of payment. A lot of families today, I'm noticing, are using credit cards. And some differences here. With our firm, you're able to do credit card payments directly on the website, alleviating the need to even come into the building. Most people love that. Yes, there is a small processing fee, which there is anytime you make a credit card transaction. Another form of payment is insurance. And by far, if a family has it, insurance is the most used payment method. Most insurances will verify within 72 hours. And most of the companies now are charging a 5% processing fee in order to process your insurance quicker and alleviate you the headache and paperwork. Most funeral homes will take care of all of that for you. Now, as we talk about insurance, let's be real. A new policy that is just taken out normally has to be in effect for 2 years before it will pay without an investigation. This is called the contestability period. What they're wanting to verify here is that you did not have a pre-existing condition when you took the policy out, and then you subsequently died from that condition. Because on the application, it's going to ask, do you have certain health issues? Depending upon your answer, will determine how quickly the insurance may take effect. Now, most agents won't tell you about this because remember, their job is to make a commission from selling you a policy. Not saying that they're using any unfair practices, but just telling you the truth. As I just said, the reason for this 2-year period is to make sure you didn't have a pre-existing condition. Because let's keep it real, people do lie on the application. They do. And just to give you an example of how that sometimes works, God forbid someone go to the doctor today, and upon going to the doctor, what do they get? A bad diagnosis, stage 4, this, that, or the other. Hearing that grim prognosis, they then call an insurance agent. They hide the truth from him, have a policy in hand, thinking that it's good. Then when death occurs and they come to the funeral home and hear contestability period, they then don't understand what's going on. But that's the way insurance works. It's just how it works in America. Now, we have those others that say, well, hell, the federal government, state, the military is going to bury me. No, that's a joke. They may give a small portion towards helping, but to take on the entire cost, no. The military, number one, you must be honorably discharged. You may get some insurance benefits if you maintain them. A lot don't. Some do. They will provide you with a grave, an outer burial container, and also a marker. But the funeral home, oh, they may pay transportation from where the removal was made, use of hearse, limousines, and vehicles. But that's about it. They're not going to pay for caskets, embalming, and all of that unless you died active duty. Is the state going to bury you? No, not the state of Virginia. Not at all. There's no law or statute that the state of Virginia is going to bury you. Well, the government, Social Security, yep, $255. That's all you're going to get, $255. That's if you earned it. Did you work enough to get that? My city will bury me. Some cities will. Where I come from, the Petersburg, Richmond, Virginia area, yes, Richmond did provide burial, minimum burial. Petersburg did not. The city of Newport News, in which I practice now, you'd have to be unclaimed. Unclaimed meaning we contact the sheriff's office, let them know that the body's here, the family has no means to take care of it financially. From there, the sheriff contacts the family. Upon granting the need, it will then go to the judge. If the judge signs off, the sheriff department will then pay the funeral home a small amount. In the city of Newport News, it's $800 for a direct cremation, and we are not allowed to return the cremains back to the family. So if you haven't prepared, not much is going to happen. That's just the truth. What does it mean? The inevitable. We know we're all going to pass one day, and we have to make a preparation for that. We need to think about, well, what's going to happen to my mortal remains, or the body, as people say? Who will be responsible for fulfilling your wishes when you do pass? How much will it cost, and how will it be paid for? These are things that every adult should think about, knowing that one day they will pass. And it should not be the burden of your family to figure what to do with you as you lived your life. I mean, it's a part of reality. We all have to understand we're going to die one day, and someone's going to have to be responsible for this. Remember, your final services are your responsibility. Plan it like you would a wedding, a birthday party. We even plan cookouts. Something as the family getting together to light a grill. We plan that, but we don't plan the event of our demise. Make it make sense. Be real with your insurance agent and don't lie to them on the application. It's only going to make things worse down the line when we find out that it's not worth what you thought it was, and now you have an additional stressor. Now, with contestable policies, what they will do is tend to give you back the premium you paid with any interest that it may have accrued. Know that the federal government, state, city, military are not going to foot the bill for your entire funeral unless you die active duty. It just doesn't happen like that in America. I want to say thank you one more time. Now, we've been on here 21 minutes and 49 seconds. I think that is long enough. If anybody has any questions, any thoughts, hit at me at the comments. I'm going to check this out. We'll upload the podcast version later this evening, but we're here to help you. Remember, GoFundMe is not insurance, but it is our responsibility to make sure we take care of everything so when we die, our family doesn't have to go through additional stress of trying to figure what to do. Hey, Emmy Fisher Funeral Home, thank you for tuning in. Peace.